Ms. Parker? Ms. Kinser's here. Mr. Fulbright?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Ms. Irvin? Here. Mr. Sims? Here. Mr. Hooper? Here. Mr. Howell? Here. Mr. Lindsay? Mr. Dudley? Mr. Fulbright, we have a quorum.
All right. How many do we have present?
7.
7 present. Thank you very much.
Oh, 8. 8.
Thank you very much. This time we'll rise and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all should have received the agenda or pulled it off the website. There are copies back there if you don't have one in front of you. I have received a request from one of our county commissioners to move the discussion of the capital and general budget to the end of the new business segment so that they may be able to attend and say some things about it. Ms. Kinser.
Mr. Fulbright, I think that would just really start a precedent. We've never done that. The agenda as it is, public comment comes at the very beginning if it's something on there, and I would not be in favor of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on changing the agenda at all? Ms. Parker? Is your light on or? Okay. Okay.
They're supposed to be, sorry. Do we take off those policies?
Yes,
I had
we
a chance to look at that since I emailed you.
Yeah. Are all 18 of these policies ones that were added since the work session that we kind of had that email information about?
Yeah, those were all policies that came about because they're due to law changes that went into effect 7/1. So I did all these changes due the TSBA recommended to have them ready for the board's July meeting. So, but if the board would, they're all just laws that already gone into effect. That's why I put them on this one. So.
Okay. Do you want to kick them to the work session then?
I would prefer that we just follow our process, take them through the work session and actually have a chance to review them and discuss them. I understand that most of them are probably going to fly through, but I think there are some that we may want to have some discussion about, and including from people that may not be here.
Okay. Any other discussion on the agenda? Ms. Irvin?
I mean, me personally, I think if it's coming from a county commissioner, I feel like we talked about having a partnership with them. I would have no problem rearranging it, but that's just my personal opinion, because I feel like if they feel like they got something they want to discuss with us, I feel like we should be welcome to that, but that's just my 2 cents worth.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Why don't I just put it to a vote? I move we adopt the agenda with the changes that Ms. Parker asked for.
Okay. That would then exclude the movement of the.
Right. I asked not to change anything else, but.
So the budget discussion would still come where it's at.
Right.
Okay. Does that have a second? Have a second for Ms. Parker on the approval of agenda with the amendment that we're taking out the policy segment number 3 as it appears in section 7. Any other discussion? If you vote yes, you're voting to leave the budget discussion where it is and remove the policy. If you vote no, you're voting for something other than that. I don't know how else to put it. All right, I believe we're ready to vote. There's no more discussion. Ms. Parker? Ask for a little patience. We're working through an issue with our voting system. We go back and make another change.
What just happened?
Yep. All right, that motion, has everybody voted? Does not pass, so we'll take another run at the agenda. I'll entertain another motion if someone has one. If not, I'll make one. I'll make the motion that we remove the policies segment and then move the budget discussion back to the end, after number 5 on segment 7. Is there a second? Second from Wayne, I guess. Mr. Lindsay, I mean.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this commissioner gonna come speak to us? I mean, that's not usually what we...
What this is gonna be is just an opportunity for a public comment. It's not gonna be a back and forth discussion.
Okay.
They've just asked to address the board. All right, I believe we're ready to vote. So the motion is to approve moving the budget discussion until after 7.5 and to remove all the new policies and put them at the work session. If you vote yes, that's what you're voting for. If you're voting no, you're asking us to reconsider something else. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Howell and Mr. Hooper. All right. We're going forward with the agenda with that change. Any recognitions or announcements? None? All right. Public delegations, Mr. Andrews with the Cullioca, and I will invite you on up. If you'll state your address, where you're located, and I'll just let everybody know, we do have a process for addressing things that are not on the agenda, and he did fill that out in plenty of time and did the correct way. So we're always appreciative and always like to point that out. So thank you, and you have the floor.
Awesome. I'm from Cullioca, 2761 Willow Lane, Cullioca, Tennessee.
You'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Elliot Andrews. I have 3 children that attend Cullioca Unit School. I am also a coach, player, parent, and volunteer of the Cullioca Summer Softball League. I'm here tonight to request your consideration of the installation of lights on the 3rd softball field in Cullioca. I feel that this would be beneficial in many ways, but I will highlight 2 of the most significant. It would allow the Cullioca Summer Softball League to have more teams and more games because we would be able to play later. This would provide opportunities for more kids to participate and have a huge impact for the youth in Cullioca and surrounding areas. It would also benefit the Cullioca Unit School softball and baseball teams. Currently, I have an 8th grader that plays on the Cullioca Middle School softball team. There are times when the high school team cannot start practice until 7 or 8 o'clock because the middle school team is still on the field and there is no other field with lights at the Culleoka campus. If the third field at Culleoka had lights, it would provide an additional practice field and another game field if needed. Before meeting with you tonight, I have spoken to Austin, and he has gathered some additional information and quotes for this project that will be presented to you. Thank you for your time and consideration of this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any staff reporting? How's staffing going?
We are in full hire mode swing right now. We're about where we are usually this time of the year anyway. We've checked and made sure. We're probably going to move some folks over temporarily just to try to help expedite the process so we can get that done in a better, quicker way.
Okay.
And we're waiting till the work session and we'll announce all of our new principals.
Thank you very much. Next to consent items, we have 18 items on the consent agenda, and I know I had a question brought to me about one of them. Ms. Parker, do you have your light on?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if it was possible for us to move the part, about the softball field naming. I don't have any objection to it, and I don't think the board does, but when we're waiving a policy, normally we vote on that separately because we're waiving the policy, so I just wanted to see if we needed to do that.
Okay. Do we need to make that in the form of a motion?
You can do it by just,
Okay. Then let's go ahead, I guess then our proper motion would be to vote on the consent items with the removal of number 7, and we'll include that, the first item in new business. Motion to approve. Have a motion to approve the consent items with the removal of number 7. Second for Mr. Lindsay. Any discussion?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
On the Follett license, I had to leave early, so I wasn't here for that discussion, but is there a reason why we're losing a school and keeping a license? Did we operate last year without a license at the textbook warehouse?
Yeah,
go ahead, Tom.
I want to go ahead and make a suggestion to pull that one out too from consent. Because I'd forgot about that one. Let's remove number 7 and 18 off the consent agenda items. Any other discussion at this point on consent? Is that okay? I was going to say, Ms. Kinzer, is that okay with you? Absolutely. Mr. Lindsay? All right. We're in good order. We'll vote on the consent agenda items with the exceptions of number 7 and 18. Okay. All right, that passes unanimously. Let's go back. We've taken out number 7. Is there any discussion on that? Ms. Parker's already expressed her reasoning. If I need a motion from Ms. Parker, second from Mr. Lindsay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote on number 7, the request to name softball field at Mount Pleasant Elementary, or middle school rather. All right, that passes unanimously. Now to number 18, I do personally want some information on this. Could you give us a rundown of what this Follett School Solutions purchase is?
Yeah, I can. So this has been, and I know you guys, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was off during the work session, but I'm gonna explain to you. I've been working on this with the schools, everybody since December. Basically, this gets all of our school district up to the new software and everything used properly. So what I mean by properly is, we were using textbook systems for inventory. So for example, I got all these textbooks and I would put printers and things, and so ultimately, to save money, we did combine central office and add some stuff, but ultimately, it came to a point where we had 15 different inventory systems and none of them were correct. Everybody putting stickers. I got a group together, we went to the schools, got with Mr. Laconin, we've checked everything out. Basically, they said, hey, this is what we want to do. We had multiple teams meetings with Follett. This was to get all of our software and everything correct to where we're using the correct product for the correct thing in a uniform platform across the entire district.
Are there any other systems that were considered other than Follett's?
Yes, and that's, and don't get me wrong, this is not the cheapest one, but I can tell you, every librarian we went to said Follett, Follett, Follett. And if, you know, I'm a resource, so ultimately, you know, I would tell them, hey, there's cheaper options. We did look at cheaper options, but ultimately it kept coming back, we'd prefer Follett, because there is gonna be some work on the front end, and the reason why we're bringing it to you now is to try to get things before school started. Special ed, Lisa can tell you, we have a bunch of paper stuff that needs to be digital that we just haven't done it because there was an inventory system, people were kind of doing their own thing.
Okay.
So that's why this is what it is.
Mr. Laconin?
Inventory management was a large part of a previous job that I had. So we looked at, I met with Tommy, I met with Eric, and we went over Asset Panda, IT Snopes, many different, another one was Fishbowl. There's a lot of different asset management and inventory tracking softwares out there. But as Tommy said, we've worked with all the bookkeepers and librarians, and they all are currently using Follett. And so it was an easy transition to have everybody continue to use it because it's a familiar user interface for them, and I agree with Tommy.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other discussion? Ms. Parker?
Sorry, I just have one question about it. So is it replacing something that we use currently? Or we didn't have anything?
We didn't have anything. Everybody
Okay.
was kind of doing their own thing, spreadsheets, Excel, and this was gonna give us something that we can have some data and actually track things better, uniform, and train everybody on one single platform.
Okay. And you'll probably hear me say this again
Yep.
tonight, because we're using ESSER funds, it looks like, to pay for this. ESSER 1.0, is that right?
It's for the upgrade, correct? You're paying for the upgrade out of ESSER funds, or do you pay the whole? To my knowledge, it's billed each school individually, and this was the initial cost to get transferred over, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'm gonna let Scott speak to it.
It says it is, so.
Yes, the renewal, this initial part to get it all started is coming out of ESSER 1.0. We had funds that were left over from ESSER 1.0 after we finished the grant, so we moved those so that we could purchase this to allow us to do better. Especially thinking about in terms of our new computers that we're gonna access, being able to have all those in one platform was a natural thing that we need to do to be able to manage all that inventory in one platform.
Okay. I'm gonna be very frank about this. When we have something that we're paying out of ESSER, and you said that this is not replacing anything else, but then you're saying it's a renewal, those two things are not jiving for me.
So let me explain. So we had textbook and we have inventory. We've always had kind of textbook. We're using textbook for inventory. So what we did when we got with Follett and reached out and said we need an inventory system too, there's actually two separate entities. So it's not replacing, it's an additional.
Okay.
And I think
It's
what
an
Scott.
add-on.
Yeah, so it's additional to what we currently have to cover everybody, because there was kind of I don't know, again, we didn't have, some people were doing spreadsheets for inventory. This pulls
Right.
inventory and textbook management all into one thing. We've talked with Amy and Jill, they were on board because they deal with a lot of that for the entire district.
Right.
It's just supposed to streamline when we're asking for books and they're looking to not have to go run down and kind of look at the warehouse and count stuff. It's all gonna be digital.
Okay. But then the question then becomes, so we're pulling money out of ESSER to pay for it. So Doug, looking to you, this isn't something that's included in our budget. So going forward next year, when we're actually trying to get a clear picture of what our budget is, I assume this is a one-year contract that's gonna be annual, not to be renewed every year?
So Doug, not to interrupt, but without looking, so the initial part, there's an initial part that if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not looking at it, I'm sorry, but there was an initial part that's a one-time fee. And then each school individually will get billed, it's broke down by, they call it, store, where they're gonna have their own inventory. So without looking at, is they paying for the upgrade or are they paying for the entire thing? 'Cause we budgeted.
We pay for the upgrade, but the budget for it regularly is already in.
That's right. So that's what I'm trying, and I'm not trying to confuse, I'm just saying that there's a one-time with adding the additional stuff, there was some server work and things, we have to pull everything in, and that was the initial ESSER fund, so we didn't wanna do reoccurring.
Okay. So this is not going to be something that needs to be added to the budget going forward. This is a one-time upgrade.
They already had the textbook part, so the budget is additional, like technology, we had to add it to ours moving forward, but it's already in
Right.
there. So moving forward, it's in our budget already, we're not adding later. If that makes sense, if I did a good job explaining that. Does that make sense? We didn't have it, but it's already in there for this budget year.
But you're
So-
paying for it with us, sir?
No,
Which won't be in there
Just
for
the
next year.
one-time
just the
shot.
one time.
Just the one-time charge?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on the Follett contract? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. Oh, do we have yeah, that'd be nice to have. Does anybody, motion from Ms. Kinzer, second from Mr. Howell. Now I think we're ready to vote. Okay, I believe that, passes overwhelmingly. On to new business. We have moved the financial, capital, and general budget discussion, so let's go to zoning and facilities. Mr. Perriman, I believe this is your, or no, I guess, Mr. Hall and Mr. Pointer.
Here
Neither of which I see.
tonight, right, Mr. Pointer's out, Mr. Hall is chasing a water leak in Spring Hill. We brought to you tonight, and I apologize, I was researching something, just the track and the other athletic, projects that had been requested. Since the last time we met, Mr. Pointer had been working on a list of priority, to the different facilities that we have, and that's all we brought to you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Are there, Mr. Lindsay?
This, I don't want this to get confused as if I'm trying to put this off, because I think most of you know this is something near and dear to me, but, talking with Mr. Luke Conan earlier, just something came up that to take money out of fund balance, which was where we were talking about it being a possibility of the funding coming from, we have to have a budget, and we don't have one. So we're operating on a continuing budget, and so even if we pass this tonight, we still have to wait for a budget to pass. So I'd recommend that we, Mr. Pointer and Mr. Perriman may kill me for this, but I recommend we just set this aside until we get a budget passed and then take it up from there.
Would you like for us to just put a placeholder on the next work session, hoping that a budget has passed the commission? If it does not, we'll just remove it and wait until it's time. Is that okay?
That seems to be the consensus.
Will do.
Okay. Moving on, we'll go to number 4. We've removed all the policy discussions. Elementary coordinator position to be posted instead of school improvement coordinator. Mr. Gaines.
Mr. Chairman, we were asked to bring back the, elementary coordinator, job description along with the, director of teaching and learning and assessment and the org chart, and we brought those. And, again, we are not asking for any additional funding. These funds already existed. We removed the school improvement coordinator and the RTI coordinator as per your direction, since they were positions that were in the org chart but unfunded. We removed those positions. So the school improvement coordinator was in the original budget. It was not in addition. We're just asking to use those funds to hire an elementary coordinator, and the job descriptions are there.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Parker.
Sorry, since I asked for this, I guess my hope was to see that the school improvement coordinator duties got shifted, and so who do they get shifted to? And is that under the, I guess, the director of teaching, teaching, learning, and assessment? 'Cause I didn't get a copy of that.
Yes,
job
it was posted, Director of TLA, it was
Right,
posted,
but I mean,
yeah.
I'm saying I don't have a copy of the school improvement coordinator position to make sure that all of those got filtered to where they needed to go.
Okay. I just misunderstood that you needed a copy of the, school improvement coordinator once it was, I can go back and dig that back up and
You don't
and
have
give it you.
to, I just, you
We
know.
did add those duties to the TLA position, as the position the school improvement coordinator did. We divided some of those duties with the school improvement planning, we gave to federal programs, but also there are some duties that the federal program couldn't take over because she's paid in federal, and some of those duties had to be shared between federal and, GP. So school improvement planning stayed in instruction in the general purpose side simply because we couldn't have that, because of the federal funding side, you can have a federal funded person supervising a general purpose person, but they can give input to the school improvement plans because they provide Title II funds, and you have to, in order to have Title II funds, you have to do a school improvement plan. So that's the way we kind of have both of them sharing that duty. But in addition to that, the things that have to do with all principal, the tassel credit, the teacher PDP, the assistance to HR with licensure issues that the school improvement coordinator did, all the things that we have to do with teacher recognition, teacher development, so far as Murray Academy of Professionals, the professional development that teachers have, the planning of those days, all those duties have been switched over to the Director of Teaching and Learning. And remember now, she supervises the 3 coordinators, and 3 coordinators will assist in their areas with helping to support teachers as we do those types of things that are, the coordinators are more the direct contact with the teachers. The Director of Teaching and Learning is their supervisor. She directs those folks, and then that's the kind of the way we split those job responsibilities.
So is it fair to say that, so the Director of Teaching and Learning, you said they work more with the principals, is that what you're saying? And then the coordinators, elementary, middle, and high school work more with the teachers directly? Is that what, is that
they
what
coordinate more, they're more teacher support, but they also support principals. The Director of Teaching and Learning is the 3 coordinators they report to the Director of Teaching and Learning, but they all work together to support teachers and principals in instruction, in textbook implementation, in instructional matters, in teacher professional development, principal professional development. That's their role in that in the instruction department.
Okay. I will just say that I think that it seems very convoluted when you've got different layers reporting to different people. That's just my personal opinion on it. I do want to see that we have an elementary supervisor. I think that's a position that we've needed for a long, long time, but I'm not sure that this extra, it sounds to me like the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment is really, in a lot of ways, what the school improvement coordinator was doing, but we just put a different title on it. So it's hard for me to know, but
Well, I don't, because we also, in the instruction department, we have pupil services, special ed, career and technical education, all of those, and federal programs that report to the assistant superintendent. So it isn't, you've got another layer, but you also got those large departments that are reporting to the instruction department. So,
but they just report directly to you. They don't have to report to this teaching.
Yes, the coordinators report to the Teaching and Learning, but the Teaching and Learning reports to me.
Right.
Yeah, so
and then
we
you
have
said the federal and CTE, they all report to you.
That's right, that's right.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Mr. Lindsay?
Doesn't the motion need to be to eliminate the school improvement coordinator position and add the elementary school coordinator position? Is that what the motion should, that's the way you guys see that?
Mr. Gaines, is that pretty much what you understand it to be?
The school improvement coordinator has been removed from the org chart,
Okay.
as you directed.
Okay, so yes, I believe your motion would be appropriate. Well, no, that's different than what you said.
Motion to approve the elementary coordinator position and remove the school improvement coordinator position
Okay.
from the,
I guess we need to know if we have a motion yet. Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Howe seconds it.
gonna take school out.
Yeah, but the second line, if you could take school out of there, just an extra word. Perfect. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, I guess we're ready to vote.
She's asking who made the motion.
Lindsay made the motion, Hal seconded. Okay, that passes unanimously. Let's move on now to the org chart. Mr. Pearman.
Mr. Moore asked that we bring this back. When the current org chart for operations was cleared through the board in the fall of 19, it included 2 positions that were approved but not funded. Mr. Moore asked that we remove those 2 positions. We had never attempted to fund those. They were just there. The other change to this is in the reshuffling of the Pupil Services Department, athletics and nursing has moved over to the operations side, and they are reflected on the org chart that's presented to you. So that's the only changes that are there.
Is this something we need to vote on to approve?
I mean, it is a change to an org
FYI.
chart, but it's just an FYI. We just removed what he asked us to remove.
Okay, well, great. Hopefully he'll see this meeting or read the minutes, and he'll know that then. All right, that brings us to the capital discussion. Mr. Pearman, I'll turn that to you.
Again, based off of what we reported to you last week, technically, the capital budget is still under advisement from the budget committee. Unless it's been sent back.
Mr. Laconin.
I'm sorry. Mr. Sumners and the Don Morrow reached out to me, and they talked with Daniel on whether it was still under advisement or not. That's why it's on tonight's agenda. According to the county attorney, the denying of the borrowing resolution pushed this request back to you all. So something different needs to be sent to the commission. Well, I would recommend something different be sent to the commission if approval is sought after. And Eric, I'm sorry, I heard about that Friday, so I'm sorry I didn't tell you ahead of time.
So with that, we have no, we're open to discussion on how you would wish to alter that proposal.
Could we just take $1 off of it?
You could add $1.
I would rather let's add $1. Okay, well, that is my motion, to send it exactly as is with an addition, so it'd be 85,001 with all the other asks on it. And I say that because, well, we can discuss it if I have a second.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Nope. All right, Mr. Lindsay seconds it. All right,
Just need to clarify, you wanna send the whole thing back, so $90,893,001.
I do because
Just
I
wanted to
think
clarify.
that they're gonna be allowed to make a presentation about it at the 12th and we need to be there as well. And we've spent a long time on this, and I just think we need to stand firm.
okay. I want to just ask something that came up, I believe it was at last week's meeting, of adding some of the athletic requests into it and increasing it at that point?
Originally, you know that we had 660,000 in the request that went to the budget committee. They did ask, if you remember, I came back, they asked for that to be funded out of fund balance, and sent that request back to us. In the original proposal, the 1.2 million for school buses was actually upped, I think, to 1.24 million. They added for some up costs in that, but they did approve school buses to go through. They asked to send the 660 back to you for consideration through fund balance. They did not take any action on the 4 million that was requested for maintenance to our current buildings. They just didn't do anything with that. And then they moved forward the 85 million on the building plan to the full commission, which is what they voted on last week.
Okay. Ms. Parker?
I will just say, I will vote against the current motion in the current state, because I think it should be more than $1 that we're asking for. Namely because if we go to the next item, I'm not voting for a $4 million deficit in the budget. I'm just not. I'm fundamentally opposed to that. But, because we've used that in the past to fund a lot of other projects, including, you know, maintenance items that don't get included into our regular budget, including athletic items that don't get included in our regular budget. And so, to me, if we're going to be asked to bear the burden of a $4 million deficit that way, I'd like to see it added back in on the capital side so we can do something with these projects that we've not been able to do in the past.
I'd be happy to do it.
Would you?
Who made the second on that motion? Okay. Ms. Kinzer said she was willing to amend her motion to up it, instead of $1, up it by 660,000, is that the number?
The deficit.
The deficit number?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would do maintenance.
Okay.
$4 million.
So what does that bring our number to?
Well, the deficit is, if I remember right, what is the deficit? 4.7 million. It's 4 million.
Turn your mic on.
It's different now because last meeting we changed, we added in the printing agreement, and we also reduced the sales tax. So with that factored in, hold on, it's loading. 4.7 million, 4,708,415, 4708415. Yeah, so, and I know that we're thinking about this collectively, but we do have the capital plan that's on here tonight. If it comes up, you know, about this 4.7 million, you're right there at that 90 million number anyways, so you could consider that 90,893,000.
Yeah.
That was the total ask originally.
That's what I'd like to amend my motion to be.
90,893,000.
Yeah,
You know,
that's,
That does include the 4 million for maintenance.
And that's the number we sent to them originally. And again, that breaks down, just so you know, the 85 million in the request for the buildings, 4 million for maintenance, 1.23, that actually went up a little bit. They added about 40,000 for buses, and then, capital was 660 for athletics. Would they have to address the buses again, since they had moved that forward as part of this plan?
Oh,
no,
so the buses come out of there.
189.
Out of
fund.
189.
All right. Ms. who? Oh, Mr. Lacona.
So I just want to add some clarification. Originally, what ended up going to a vote to borrow money for was 85 million. That vote failed 7-13. The 75 million vote failed 10-10. Just letting you guys know what happened if you weren't at the commission meeting or you weren't able to watch it. July 12th is where this vote would move forward to, whatever we send back to them. And we are gonna try to add some clarification to the presentation. I do think there was some, confusion in the air. And also, like we talked about at the last school board meeting, it was, we know what the hot button issue is on this plan and why there was some hesitance as far as the plan goes. But I just wanted to add some clarification to that, and Eric and I will present and see how it goes.
May I ask a question real quick? If you say they've already funded the budgets, then we could take that out of the 90,000, that would make it 89,663.
You could, yep. It would bring it down to 89.663, just like
Just like I said.
Ms. Kinzer said. I was just double checking you.
Art teacher too. Well, I'm gonna re-amend my motion, that we make it 89,663,000. And that would include the athletic ask also.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and call on you, since your light was on earlier.
Oh, good. If you watch their meeting, there were some that got hung up on the details of our plan. That was why it failed. I mean, it's not the money, I don't think. I mean, so with that being said, I would like to send them an 89,600,000 some, whatever that number is, ask for capital projects, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
'Cause it, well, I'll just leave it at that. We're charged with the details, and, I think it's less complicated if we don't put too many details in there. But that's, that would be my suggestion, that we don't include, what specifically, each one of what the monies are for. I think they even had bond counsel that night. They asked bond counsel some questions, and I remember him saying that there have been commissions that have tried to attach a physical address to bond borrowing, and by law they can't. That still doesn't limit you. So it. I want to work with them, but I think it could maybe suit everybody better if we simplified this and just ask for capital projects and leave it at that.
Well, and I will point out that I believe one of our conversations discussed the fact that a certain amount of this money is going to the current Spring Hill High School building, regardless of what we do with it. And I think maybe that's where we ought to leave it, because we don't know the exact, I mean, we have a plan,
Yeah.
but we're not ready to.
Once funding becomes available, then our charge is to get with Hewlett Spencer, with architects, with engineers, with contractors, and come back to you with a plan that says, this is a guaranteed maximum price, and these are the projects that are included in that plan. And at that point, you can, at any point along the way, you guys are guiding, or guiding the vessel on how we approach these projects and how we move forward with them.
As Mr. Lindsay stated, I do agree. I don't think it's the money. I think it's the details. I know we have our priorities set out on the capital, layout of what we need to attack, but in having conversations, it really does, echo in my mind. I wonder, and I know we've got to keep this realistic, but I wonder if it would be wise for us to start thinking futuristic and thinking about securing land and asking for, money to start looking for land as our growth, because I fear that our growth is gonna be incredibly overwhelming in the next few years. People are moving in by droves, and it's just going up. And I know there's a lot of developers taking the land, and my fear is that I just wanna have good foresight and know that we're planning. So that's something, for whatever that is worth. I'm not officially making any kind of amendment, but I think we do need to look forward, 'cause once the land's gone, it's gone, so.
Yeah, personally, I do think leaving out the details would be a mistake in this point. I think it's too late for that at this, where we're at now. This has already been out there, they've seen it, and if we come back with no details, they're gonna look at it, and they can create their own details, and that doesn't help us in any way. That's just, personally, I think either keep what we have or change it, 'cause what we have now did not work. And, I think it'd be crazy to think that it's gonna work the second time.
I didn't know if I had cut you off. Okay, Mr. Howe.
So, I do agree as well. The details are out. I don't think we need to change them. I think this is our plan. This is what we decided. This is what we worked hard on. If they don't wanna fund it, then they don't wanna fund it for whatever reason. I've heard various sticking points as to why some won't do it. Some won't do it because they're afraid we may change the name. And we've not officially voted on a name. We've tossed out a few ideas, but they were simple tosses. There was no vote. We're not planning on a vote on a name until we actually know we have something to name. I mean, honestly, I kinda feel like we're asking for not enough. I mean, this isn't do what our 5-year plan says it's gonna do. Our 5-year plan and does all of this and includes something for Culleoka. Why are we not asking for that? That would include our 5-year plan. So, I mean, you know, honestly, we should stop asking for what we think they may pass and ask them for what we need. And if we hold true with our 5-year plan, this isn't what we need. This does not accomplish our 5-year plan. And beyond that, it surely doesn't accomplish our 10-year goals. Now, those change. We will be meeting here probably again in the fall and reassessing where we are, and things could change. I don't see the growth not coming. I don't see the growth stopping. So more than likely, our plans are probably on track. So with that being said, I mean, I really, truly I feel that 89 million, I mean, we know how our commission thinks. It's oh yeah, one and done. We got this done. Let's move on to the next project. Well, in reality, the next project is already in our plans down the road next year or 2 years from now, and we're gonna be in this same boat asking for pennies when we need dollars. And, you know, I wanna work with them, but they've gotta work with us. Our plans have not been hidden, so we're not there's no hidden agenda out here saying, oh no, you know, they're just trying to get more. No, our plans are public record. We have had meetings, we have detailed them. We would love for them to come to our meetings. We've moved our meetings around so that it doesn't conflict with their meetings. I don't know what more we can do to try to work things out to help them understand what our needs are. I understand that they have greater needs as well, but that's just where I'm at. I feel that by asking for less than 89 million would just not work for us.
Mr. Perriman or Mr. Lucona or whomever can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but, I'm going back several years now, but I'm thinking that with Hewlett-Spencer's process, by law, not only does this board have to approve a GMP, but also the funding body has to approve that GMP. So, I'm assuming that if this were to pass, that this is gonna be one building project, that would include a number of different places. You know, we've talked about Santa Fe, we've talked about a new high school, whatever it may be, but I have an expectation that Hewlett-Spencer is going to come back and give us one guaranteed maximum price that we have to approve, then the county commission has to approve it anyways. This is not a hill I'm willing to die on. I want to work with them, but we've got to get an ask to them, whatever it may be, and but I think that maybe we need to do a better job of communicating what the process is. That just because if they had approved this borrowing, that they're not approving to build a high school in Spring Hill area for $70 million. There's still another vote that has to happen before that occurs, because we have to approve that GMP, and then they'll have to approve it also, but.
Long one? Okay. All right, I guess I'm just catching my breath. My name is Sue Stevenson. I'm County Commissioner. I represent District 6. I serve on the Budget and Building Committees, the Health and Safety Standards Board, the Murray County Regional Planning Commission. And I sent you all, I had hoped to get it out to you sooner. I'm not super tech savvy, and I did my best. My son was trying to talk me through a couple of ways I could try to send that all to you. And finally, I just went for what I thought would be the easiest thing to do. Not necessarily the most expedient, but the easiest. I sent you a document. I listened to your last meeting, and I sent you a document where I thought there were some things that were not presented the way I think they should have been presented. I went out to the school last Friday and took a number of photographs, as you all know. I want to say it came to 118 photos. I think that photographic evidence pretty clearly shows that there is definitely a water issue, water leakage issue out there. This isn't from 3 or 4 years ago. If you remember then, I actually brought you pictures 3 or 4 years ago as well. But these pictures were taken last Friday. I know that all of them aren't necessarily, you know, some of them may have been a little while, but I guess I'd ask why the ceiling tiles weren't changed. But the other issue too is mold, and also I was out there the day that Stan Breeden had a gentleman go up and inspect the roof, and he came down, and I was waiting for him over by the athletic facilities because I think he also had to inspect the bleachers and I think the concrete bleachers, and I asked him about the roof, and he said you can only patch the original roof so many times and then it's not going to be effective. He said that roof needs to be completely replaced, and that was 4 years ago. And I sent you a document that showed that Spring Hill High School, to replace the metal roof, was in fact on a list of your, I think it was a 5-year projected between 2017 and 2021. And on that same list was a replacement for Cullioca Unit School's roof, Whitthorne Middle School, and Woodard Elementary School, and all 3 of those roofs were replaced in 2017. But for some reason, Spring Hill High School's roof was also on that list, and that never got replaced. I guess in some other document I was looking at, it appeared that, I think was it Mount Pleasant Middle School? One of the Mount Pleasant schools that I think got a new roof this year. I'm not sure if that happened or not, but I saw it in writing somewhere. But I hope you all had a chance to read it. I'm sorry for getting it to you so late. I think it definitely was a document worth reading. I spent a lot of time on that. I spent a lot of time out at the school. I pretty much had to soak my feet once I got home from taking all those photographs. But anyway, I guess I'm here to, I don't know what your discussion was, if your prior discussion before my arrival had to do with this or with any of the photographs, but I'm happy to answer questions. I hope you will consider a counter proposal, and I think I made it, I was very concerned about young children being moved into that building without the remediation that needs to be done, without the roof being replaced. It didn't appear to me that the $10 million that was for renovation and conversion had anything to do with a new roof or mold remediation or replacing the windows that are literally falling out. And so I was hoping that you would counter with those things, because the commission was pretty clear. The actual vote, I know it was presented to you in a different way, but the actual vote, I amended I amended it to 75 million, and that failed with a 10-10 tie. And then the 85 million was presented, and that failed 13-7, so it was pretty definite that the county commission had issues, and the difference was the $10 million. I was trying to think of something else I wanted to say. I guess I'll answer questions if you have any questions.
I've got one. Ms. Stevenson.
Did he say Parker?
Yes, he did.
Okay,
Sorry.
I thought you said Corker, and I'm like, Corker.
No.
Sorry about that.
That's
Go ahead.
okay.
Yes.
I know you said the 75 million you were comfortable with, you felt like the commission was more comfortable with that. With the pictures that you sent us, obviously maintenance is an issue. So the $4 million that got taken out of our budget for maintenance, ongoing maintenance, why is there not support for that being included?
Well, I don't think I wouldn't say there's not support for it, but we can only fund so much. You know, when we're facing multi-million-dollar schools, you know, plus an operating budget that's over $100 million, there's only so much we can do. You know, the school is actually over 90% of our budget, over 90% of the county's total budget. And I think I explained that at the beginning of the letter. I tried to, where I said that it wasn't that we were opposed to the $4 million. We were just trying to prioritize a new school, you know, the $660,000 you were asking for, although we were hoping that whatever the liability issue was to do with the athletic field out there would be taken care of, but that doesn't appear to. I asked if that would be taken care of, and it didn't appear that that was on the list. But we're still paying on Central High School, Battle Creek Elementary School, Battle Creek Middle School, and $50.7 million that we appropriated for major school repairs and maintenance previously, from here back to 2014-15, I guess. So we're still paying on all of those schools plus $50.7 million in repairs and maintenance money. Our current total debt for the county, and a good part of that is the schools, is approximately $158 million. So I wouldn't say that we don't support the $4 million. I would say we're trying to fund your primary, I would say your most primary concern would be the new school. But to be honest with you, you know, based on, and I know that EMG report was done quite a while ago.
We had
Mr.
it
Chairman, I
updated.
appreciate your indulgence.
I think we
I
had
do
it
want to have this
updated, though.
conversation, but it can't take place in 5 minutes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't think he cut you off, but we had that EMG report updated. It's called,
Well,
Bureau
still,
Veritas now, so.
realistically, that $4 million, if we were to give you that $4 million each year, it might help with some of your newer issues that get added to the list. You know, new repairs and new maintenance that get added to that list and come forward. But my recommendation at some point would be to ask for a significant amount of money for repair and maintenance. I mean, a large amount of money. I mean,
Like
we're still
this year?
paying on like, I know previously, 1 year, I think we gave you $14 million. I think another year we gave you $16 million. I think $6 million of that went to Marvin Wright. But I think that's kind of in the ballpark where you really need to be if you're ever going to try to bring that list down. I mean, I understand you guys might have been conservative with the $4 million, given everything else you were asking for, but I wouldn't say that the commission was opposed to the $4 million.
Okay, thank you.
This may be unfair, Ms. Stevenson.
Oh, go ahead. I've had quite an evening already.
But, so you made the amendment to take 10 million out, and you made the amendment for the $75 million number.
I did.
So what's the idea, what do we do with Spring Hill High School building?
Well, I asked Mr. Perryman that question. I said, if we only fund you $75 million, and we don't fund that money that you're saying is for renovation and conversion of that school, what happens to Spring Hill High School? I said, do you just let it deteriorate? And this is all on tape. And he just kinda went, well, you know. Again, there are a lot of us, a lot of commissioners that do not favor the conversion.
I get
and,
that.
And I am one of them.
Right,
And-
and I think that's an unfair question to Mr. Perryman, because this board hasn't given him any direction as far as that, in that scenario.
Well, he did respond. He said, well, we'll still come back with the conversion.
Right.
Like he was gonna try to go ahead and continue, maybe not necessarily this year, but in future years, maybe try to move forward.
But
on
where
it.
I'm going to, do you think it was obvious to me from watching that meeting that, as you just said, that a lot of commissioners had a problem with the conversion. So do you think that that the commission as a whole would rather operate 2 high schools in Spring Hill?
I think the commission as a whole sees there's gonna be a need for 2 high schools. And it's gonna cost this county and taxpayers a whole lot more money to look for 60, 70 acres, and good luck trying to find it in 2, 3, 4 years. But to try to find 60 to 70 acres, and you aren't gonna pay $11,000 per acre like you did for the Battle Creek campus. You're gonna pay a whole lot more, just for the land, and you're probably looking at a high school that will be over $100 million.
So that, hypothetically, if we sent a plan that said we want to take that 10 million to update, renovate, whatever, any other word you want to use, Spring Hill High School, and build an additional high school in Spring Hill. Now we're operating 2 high schools, and let's say we build a 1,800 student high school somewhere in Spring Hill. Now we're operating a school, an 1,800 student building with...
At Battle Creek?
Wherever. I'm not married to Battle Creek, that's the reason I won't comment on that, but so we got 600 students in that school, and we got 600 students in Spring Hill High School now, and we're operating 2 high schools.
I'm sorry, where are you coming up with the 600?
Well, we're 1,200 students at Spring Hill today. I'm just using their numbers. So if we operate 2 high schools in Spring Hill and we divide the population of Spring Hill High School, so now we got 600 students in each school. So we have 2 schools that are just partially full, but we're assuming the cost to operate those.
The way I look at it is things like replacing the roof and addressing the structural issues and remediating the mold and replacing the windows. Those are all things that you'd have to do no matter which way you went. No matter if you did the conversion
I
or you
understand
kept
that.
it a high school.
But my question is about the operations of these buildings. Now we have 2 principals. Now we have multiple
Right.
assistant principals.
And-
now we have multiple office staffs. Now we
Right.
have...
And every time you add a school, every time you ask us to build a new school, you get the same thing. You need more staff, more administrators, more furnishings. So it's the same thing regardless of, I mean, every time we had to get new or I imagine some of the people might have transferred over, but you probably had to get some new staff, you had to get new furnishings. It increases your operational budget because you've got another facility.
But, and that's my, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just, personally, I'm fine with operating 2 high schools in Spring Hill. Because do I think that we will need 2 high schools in 5 years? No. Do I think we'll need 2 high schools in 10 years? Probably.
I think you're gonna need it in less than that.
But operating 2 high schools comes with a cost. And I'm fine to do that as long as all partners are on board.
If I could be forward for a moment and pretend that I'm on the school board, and I've gotta make the decision you've gotta make. What I would do out there is I would build the new, and I think the capacity for that's supposed to be 2,000, is that right? I would build the new 2,000 student capacity high school. And I can't remember all the other things. You had the 660,000 for athletics, you had 4,000 for Santa Fe gym, and then I would take the 10 million and I would do the things that need to be done to Spring Hill High School, and I'd be looking for land for an elementary school. It would be less land, a smaller campus, and less money. I spotted 90 acres right behind Spring Hill High School, and I went over to the assessor's office to try to see about that. and it's gone. It's a continuation. Harvest Point bought it, and they're gonna wrap all the way around to Petty Lane. And so many homes he's gonna build. But that's what I would do, because if you wanna salvage that building, whether you're doing it for a conversion or to make it a second high school, you've got to have a new roof. You've got to take care of other issues out there, like I've shown you in those pictures.
Okay.
That's what I would do. And plus, then, you're ahead for whatever you do with that building, because you've gotten some of the big costs out of the way.
All right, Mr.
And
Held,
I'd be looking
your light's
for
on.
elementary school land.
I guess part of my problem is whether we do it operating Spring Hill High School at 50% capacity or at whatever, and have two schools. We have so many other schools in our county that are growing, maybe not as fast as Spring Hill, but they're getting up there pretty quick. And how can I justify spending $75 million on a new school to have two high schools or one high school or whatever, when I've got schools in the other part of the county that are at capacity, bursting at the seams, and just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, Spring Hill needed, they had more growth. But I've got these two schools up here that are sitting way below capacity when other schools are at capacity or about to be bursting at the seams. I guess we'll just have to get y'all some portables out there. I cannot for the life of me understand how that seems logical, or fair, and not really. I mean, we presented a plan, it was a pretty good plan. Just because it says elementary school out beside the old building, doesn't mean it has to be an elementary school. It could be converted back pretty quickly. Anytime. I mean,
I think that would add additional cost. To try
well,
to
I
make
mean,
it,
it
to try to
could,
make
sure.
it a
But
temporary
here's the thing.
unit school.
If today we built a high school, that is not where we would build it. That is the poorest selection in our time to build a high school. It's a poor site. It has horrible traffic issues. It's limited by its land. We can't expand if we wanted to there. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, you could.
I guess if we could buy more land from GM, who have been unwilling
I didn't say anything
to.
about buy.
You know, I mean, it's we would not build a school there because of traffic issues alone.
Well, I've addressed some of that in that letter.
Also,
I talked about that.
I understand, but...
There is the potential to expand out there. There is the potential for more than 3 points of access for ingress, egress. Over at Battle Creek, you've got no room for expansion, none.
No, we're building it would have there would be no need to be expansion. It's a 2,000 student school already. I mean, why would we need to expand beyond that? We would have to go to another campus anyways, according to our policy. But I can't see spending all the money and resource. I mean, honestly, you know, if we want to ask for more money, I guess we could do that, but we're an MOE county. We can't operate two high schools at 50% capacity for very long before we finally have to realize one of them's got to close.
Well, you've got to operate Spring Hill High School till that other school gets built. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess what I'm more focused on than you are, and Chad, you know, I totally respect all of you, but I'll support the new high school, and I think most of the commissioners will. I think you'd have enough votes for that new school. But we don't want to relive McDowell and have it deteriorate and have it close. I think if you take that building and you still do some of those major repairs that are needed, regardless of what your decision is with that building, no matter which way you go, you've got to have a new roof, whatever you do with that building. You've got to replace windows that are falling out. I mean, these are the things I pointed out to you. And those things, you would be ahead then when it comes to the cost of whatever you're going to do out there.
Well, we're not, I mean, it just says conversion. It doesn't say we're definitely doing this. The plans have to come back to us, and then those same plans will have to come to you before we spend any money.
All we've got to go by is what you write. And we were given a document that said these things.
Your board, the commission goes by more than what we write. They write stuff up in this multi-use area that we have no plans on using. The commission has already got central office moved up there, and we have not said anything about that.
With a lot of allegations.
There's a lot of allegations that we can write everything, and then if we write it, and things happen, things change, we change our plans. Well, see, you didn't follow the plan. Well, I mean,
Well, let's not get too far off track with this. Thank you. I don't see any other lights, but thank you very much for coming up. I believe we're probably getting close to being ready to vote. I wanna just make two comments, not really to do with this as much. I just want it to be said for the record that one thing that hasn't been brought up in this whole discussion is part of that 5-year plan also was to include moving 5th grade back to the elementary schools, which a new elementary school would be highest on the list behind the high school. Second thing is I'm glad to hear that, the commission does not want to revisit of what happened at McDowell Elementary, and I assume that that means that, unlike in times past, when maintenance requests are presented as part of the capital budget, they won't be removed or shot down. With that said, I believe we're ready to vote. On the motion to present the plan as amended, with the total being 89,663,000. Is that correct with the motion and the second? Okay. Still waiting on 2, 1. Ms. Kinzer? All right, we have 6 yeses. Well, you sure made it entertaining, I'll say that. That motion passes. Now on to the operating budget. Mr. Laconin.
So, the commission sent the operating budget back, decreasing the revenue down to maintenance of effort. This impacted our sales tax revenue budget, brought it down from the, I think I had it at 20.3 million, and it was brought down to 16.8. So that's right where we're at. That's what we've budgeted for multiple years, but this, brings the revenue budget down to maintenance of effort, but that does not change the amount of revenue we will actually receive from sales tax. So yes, it increases our operating deficit to 4.7 million, with that included. Also included in this budget is the printing copier machine agreement that we approved at the last meeting, the last voting meeting. So the budget has been amended to reflect that first year's cost. I'm happy to answer any questions, but yes, this brings our budget down to maintenance of effort as far as revenue goes, but as far as actual dollars we will receive next year, we're in the same position as we were when we sent it to them.
So just for reiteration, no expenses were cut during the process, just the revenue to reflect maintenance of effort.
That's correct.
And even if we exceed that, we're still gonna receive that money to address the deficit on paper.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And so, if we were to keep our same estimate and include printer costs and everything that's been adjusted, it would change this deficit down to about 1.2 million, which could be overcome if we exceed projections.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or a motion?
Motion approved.
Have a motion to approve from Mr. Lindsay, second from Mr. Sims. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Lindsay, your light's on.
Just some more clarification. This proposal has us at a $4.7 million deficit. That's putting our sales tax number at 16.8 million, using round numbers. What do you think our sales tax number will hit this year?
Right around 21.3 million.
Maybe not even like 21.9, maybe?
It could.
But
am I using your numbers again, Wayne?
No,
or?
I'm using yours.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually using yours.
I didn't say 9.
But my point being,
we're gonna look good.
My point being, even that sales, we sent a $1.2 million deficit. Correct me if I'm wrong. What we sent?
It was about a $800,000 deficit, and now that we've added the printing contracts for the first year, that's what brought it to that 1.2.
So at 800,000, and if we collect even what you project to collect this year, we almost have a balanced budget, in real dollars. Now, on paper, it doesn't look that way, but those sales tax dollars, we're getting those anyways. I mean, by state law, we receive half of the sales tax that comes in, so those are monies we're getting anyways. I said this at the work session, I don't necessarily agree with this process, but we're not cutting any expenditures, we're getting exactly what we asked for, it just looks different on paper, and, so I think we should move on with this and hopefully get one day closer to having an approved budget.
Mr. Licona.
So, as of our most recent sales tax letter, we have 19.9 million already in sales tax. And I do expect that we have actually 2 more months. So we're gonna be fine. 1 more month. So we're gonna be fine, as far as our projection goes, and even for next year. I also talked to the comptroller's office because they're not fond of passing large deficit budgets out of fund balance for school systems, and I explained how it would work, and she said, "Oh, but the sales tax is going to come in anyways," and I said, "Yeah, it's going to come in. Well, contingent upon that, then honestly, we'd be fine, and there's no way it comes in at 16.8. I mean, we've had a budget of $16.8 million in sales tax for the last almost 4 years. I think it's 3 years and counting. And it makes me look like I don't know how to budget sales tax, which bothers me, but I truly do. And it's just a way for the commission to hold maintenance of effort.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Parker.
Doug, when does maintenance of effort, if we approve this and the commission approves it, at what point is the commission forced to, and if we're approving it, are we accepting their number so that we then keep pushing that further out when they have to increase maintenance of effort?
No, every year that the commission approves a maintenance of effort, it's 1 year closer to them having to increase our maintenance of effort by 3%. The other side of that is last year, even though we had a COVID budget, when we cleaned up the budget, we increased our maintenance of effort last year by cleaning up the budget using sales tax rather than fund balance. So this would be the first year of 3 years, so they could hold this for 2 years after this year. And if they wanted to be extremely cynical, they could increase maintenance of effort $1 every year, and they would never have to raise it 3%.
The letter of the law.
I guess I'll just say the reason why I don't like budgeting this way, and I understand where you're coming from on it. What I don't like is when we get our budget approved, the first thing we start seeing is we need things approved from fund balance. And it's really hard for me as a board member to keep up with what we've actually approved in our budget and what is just an add-on. That a staff member says, we need this to move kids forward. And I want to be able to support those things, but it's really hard when you know that you have 4 million that off the top, 4.7 that off the top is going to be taken out of fund balance. And I know you will try to keep me up to date on all that, but I think it's very taxing on Doug. I think it's very taxing on us. We know what the numbers are. The money's there to cover it. I understand why they don't want to cover it, but I don't understand why they're not covering it, because it's just making it to where we really we can't plan for those other things that are outside the box that we need to do to move the system forward when we budget this way. And that's why I have concerns about the budget as it is. I think that you've done a great job of trying to put exact expenditures in there and clean up a lot of the stuff from years past. But I'll just say, historically, from the time that I've been on this board, we've approved budgets of like $96 million and then spent $106 million. We're spending $10 million out of fund balance, and we have no idea. And I'm just throwing out round numbers, and you guys may disagree. Shipper's looking at me like, no, we haven't. But I feel like, going back to when Dr. Marzak was here, we did that all the time. And we would say it was keys. Everything was keys. But with this, we have certain expenditures in here. When we're talking about $4 million, we're talking about schools that we are running. We have to run. And in some ways, I'd be more comfortable with having a list of keys, with having a list of $4 million that we fund if we can. But that's not the way this is set up. And that's the part that really concerns me. Because at the end of the day, we're also entering into contracts with teachers that we've got to be able to cover. And if we can't cover those, because sales tax doesn't come in at the number that you project, even though I think you have a good idea of what it's going to be, to me it's like a hot potato, and who's sitting there holding the potato at the end? I just don't want to be there when the music stops holding the potato. And I understand the commission doesn't want to be there when the music stops, but we're kind of just playing this game. And I feel like we need to get over the game playing and just be realistic about what this county needs to move forward. And if we can fund it, fund it. If we can't, I'm not trying to be cute by like saying it means schools, but it does. I mean, we have teachers that are relying upon contracts that they are signing with us that come June, if we don't have enough money to pay them, what are we going to do? I feel like as a board member, I have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we can cover those costs. And this budget doesn't really, in my opinion, allow us to do that unless a lot of things work out the way that you project them to. But there's still some undecided in there.
Thank you. Mr. Sims, did you have your light on earlier? Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I believe we'd be ready to vote on the budget as presented with the change in the sales tax number. Believe we're ready. All right, it looks like that has passed 6-2. Moving on. Any bids we need to know about? Doesn't look like it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I didn't count how many times Ms. Stevenson said roof, but it was quite a bit. So, Eric, would you tell us what your evaluation of the roof is?
The EMG update that's now called Bureau Veritas, that presentation was made to you last August. We received that update back last July. If you remember, that was part of the discussion that started the McDowell conversation that we moved forward with. And for those of you, if you've not been around, EMG is a company that we contract with that comes in and goes over all of our buildings throughout the county, looks at them structurally and tells us when they think items will have to be replaced. This is the spreadsheet for Spring Hill High School. Both G building and main building are presented for roof replacement, total roof replacement in the year 2036.
Yeah, Ms. Kinzer. Oh, was that all? Would it be possible, or maybe you've already done this, to provide the county commissioners with that packet?
We will. We will provide them, depending on your direction. We can provide them with the entire packet for every building. We can provide them with the packet that's Spring Hill High School. These packets were made available last year. They're probably in your queue somewhere. That presentation that we have, that the gentleman, Alex, came and made to you last year, we also have that. It showed the 5, the 10, the 20-year needs, and that's where we came to the total number. The immediate needs at Spring Hill High School are work on heat pumps and tile and parquet replacement in the gym.
Well, I'll let you use your discretion if you think that the whole packet or just the Spring Hill part needs to be sent. I just think it would be helpful to be able to refer back to it so they've got this information on the front end.
Yes, sir.
Just thinking.
We will, we'll make that available. We'll send this packet right here specifically to you guys, and then I'll forward it to Mr. Morrow and Mr. Sumners for them to distribute to the commission.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. On now to the superintendent evaluation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Lindsay.
Before we go there, we didn't have any bids, and this is just an ask, and nothing to vote on, but we've talked about in the past, during the budget cycle, it got mentioned about a salary study and, trying to get our ducks in a row, moving toward next budget year. And along those lines, and we kinda discussed it maybe at the last work session, or 2 work sessions ago, I don't know, sometime, but, I would like to ask, Mr. Hickman, his staff, to get with Mr. Luke Conan, the purchasing agent, and bring us back a price, a proposal, whatever you may call it, from the firm that the county has contracted with to do their salary study. I think it could be beneficial to us to, if we're using the same people they're using, it's my understanding that they're gonna do a salary study before next budget cycle also. Personally, I think it could be beneficial to us to use the same person, and then everybody's on the same page, and, but that's just my request personally, and maybe that's something we could look at, maybe even talk about at next work session or next meeting.
Mr. Sims?
Doug, is, for that salary study, are other departments, say the sheriff's department, is that coming out of the sheriff's department budget, or is the county commission just funding that for each department?
It's coming out of their HR department's budget, their operating budget on the county side.
I would say maybe we can just ask the same way, and nothing would come out of our funds then.
Okay, thank you. The other item on the agenda is the superintendent evaluation. I'd love to tell you I have all of them, but I only have half of our board, returning them. I will chase the rest of you down after the meeting. I won't call you out during the meeting. But, I would like a little guidance. As I was thinking back, I believe this is the first director evaluation process I've gone through, because I came on board, kind of midstream. How would the board, and I'll also ask Mr. Hickman, obviously, how would the board like to have the information presented? I mean, I know the comments have to be broke out, but what else would you like to see? How would you like to see the data conveyed?
In the past, he saw it all.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about, I'm obviously gonna share with him everything. But I'm thinking about, what does the board want to see from the pack? I mean, how do I present it to the board? Or do I?
Maybe a question for Mr. Wolver, what we have to do.
You don't have to do anything other than provide it to Mr. Hickman. But what you've done in the past is, each one is listed in the packet, and, then there's been a tabulation, a summary at the end, if memory serves, so it's.
I would like to see an overall summary. I'm not picking on Chad when I say this, but I don't necessarily care that what Chad's scores are or what his comments are, but I would like to see collectively as a board where we stand.